In the late spring and summer of 1966, the most notorious combat zone for the 3rd Marine Amphibious Force was a flat checkerboard of rice paddies and thick hedgerows southwest of Da Nang, known as Hill 55. The Viet Cong infrastructure in this sector had learned the futility of engaging the Marines head-on. Instead, they sniped from a distance, slipped away into the brush, and let hidden explosives dictate the terms of the war. This chart shows Delta Company's total troop strength plummeting from a peak of 175 men down to just 120 effectives. In 5 weeks, they lost 10 killed and 58 wounded. The highlighted section shows the staggering loss of leadership: 5 platoon commanders, 3 platoon sergeants, and 15 squad and fire team leaders evacuated or killed, almost entirely by mines. Patrolling became ugly, unrewarding work. The relentless, invisible enemy destroyed unit morale, leaving the troops with a deep pessimism. Walking through the fields, the men operated under the heavy assumption that triggering a fatal trap was simply inevitable. Captain John Hart, the company commander, and Sergeant William Cunningham, who led the daily patrols, needed a way to keep the remaining men alive. They developed a radical adaptation for the infantry, deploying 2 armored 35-ton amphibious tractors, known as LVTs or amtracs, to drive directly ahead of the foot patrols. These massive amtracs would cruise through the lowlands, physically smashing through thorn fences and churning up known minefields with their heavy treads. The infantry platoon would walk safely behind them, stepping directly inside the crushed dirt tracks left by the vehicles. By forcing heavy hardware to absorb the impact of the hidden explosives, the Marines hoped to neutralize the psychological terror of the minefields and finally take back the physical initiative. At 1100 hours, the 32-man patrol moved out. Spread out in 2 columns behind the amtracs, the men plodded south in 102-degree heat, weighed down by flak jackets, helmets, and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. Approaching a thorn and bamboo fence, the lead amtrac hit it head-on, crushing a 30-foot hole. The treads churned the hard dirt into jagged clods, leaving a clear, safe path. The Point Marines, including Sergeant Cunningham, carefully picked their way across, stepping only where the treads had crushed the ground. 9 men walked through safely, but the 10th man drifted slightly off the fresh path, following the dry trail of old tank treads. His foot caught a tripwire. The explosive was a bouncing Betty, an anti-personnel mine designed to fly knee-high into the air before detonating. The blast felled him and 2 Marines directly behind him, sending a thick black cloud over the fence line. This mine was not placed at random. The Viet Cong had scouted the Marine routes and buried the explosive specifically to act as a stopper, designed to halt the column in a completely exposed open field. 10 seconds later, the secondary phase of the ambush began. From a hamlet 200 meters to the west, the flat reports of enemy carbines and a light machine gun snapped past the Marines. The Viet Cong gunners had their weapons pre-sighted on the fence line, aiming directly for the clustered platoon leaders, the radio man, and the medic tending to the bleeding. The explosive was simply the physical trigger. By anticipating the Marines' immediate instinct to cluster around their downed men, the Viet Cong sprang a coordinated massacre from concealed positions. The initial Marine response was scattered, but Corporal Raymond Lewis, leading the Point Squad 100 meters ahead of the main body, took immediate control. Flattened along the trail, he directed his machine gunner to rake the enemy tree line, keeping his fire low and continuous. To add more punch, Corporal John Martin knelt with his 3.5-inch rocket launcher, aiming at the thatched houses hiding the enemy snipers. He fired a high-explosive round, reloaded with white phosphorus, and fired again, systematically igniting and blowing apart 3 enemy structures. The machine gun stopped. Simultaneously, a 60mm mortar crew jumped off the second amtrac. Setting up their small tube less than 300 meters from the hamlet, the crew walked explosive rounds back and forth across the length of the tree line to pin the enemy in place. This schematic sketch from the official after-action report shows exactly how the patrol elements were arrayed around the fence and the mine detonation point. In less than 2 minutes, the Marines poured in rockets, mortars, and machine gun fire. Through immediate individual initiative and an overwhelming volume of heavy weapons, they seized absolute fire superiority and instantly shifted the balance of power. With the enemy fire suppressed, the patrol transitioned from defense to offense. The idling amtracs rumbled forward over the dirt embankments, advancing directly toward the burning village, while the infantry moved up behind them. Inside the lead amtrac, Private First Class Billy Adams fired 5 rifle grenades directly into the tree line to clear the path, then flipped his weapon to automatic, shooting out the observation window to ignite the roof of a house hiding a sniper. Outside, the infantry followed close behind the heavy armor. As Corporal Jerry Payne scrambled up an embankment into a burst of machine gun fire, a round spun his helmet off. He pitched forward, entirely shaken but unharmed, stood back up, and immediately led his squad into the field at a dog trot. The Viet Cong, accustomed to sniping at a distance, did not expect the Marines to mount a full-scale armored assault immediately after stepping on a mine. Facing the 35-ton tractors smashing through their hedgerows, the ambushers abandoned their positions and slipped away through a network of pre-planned trenches. The unrelenting physical aggression of the counter-assault broke the ambush completely. By pushing forward, the patrol forced the enemy off the field and prevented any further Marine casualties during the maneuver. While the assault secured the front, the rear elements handled the casualties. A landing zone was secured directly on the safe Amtrak treads, and within 13 minutes of the initial blast, helicopters perfectly extracted the wounded. In 40 minutes, the action was over. The Marine patrol had triggered a trap, absorbed the blow, routed the enemy, and secured the field. At the medical battalion, all 3 wounded Marines received treatment and survived. This specific firefight is detailed in the official Marine Corps pamphlet, Small Unit Action in Vietnam. The military documented these encounters to distribute directly to combat emplacements, turning hard-won field experience into a practical survival guide. Against an invisible enemy relying on traps and terror, freezing in place meant death. The patrol survived because the men rejected paralysis. They relied on physical endurance, immediate individual action, and an overwhelming wall of firepower to tear through the ambush and take the battlefield back.